guys, welcome to Casual Wednesdays. Today I would like to talk about something a little more heartfelt. So I'd actually like to talk to you about my boyfriend. We've been together on and off since 2011. He now currently resides in Queensland, so on the other side of the country to where I am, which might sound very impractical to some of you, but I actually stayed in Perth to finish my university degree and I'm in the process of trying to get there. Yeah, about 3 years into our relationship, he got sent out on a world trip for 6 months, which I don't know, like, I'm not somebody that thinks long distance is a hard thing to do because I'm very independent, so I just see it as time to like focus on my stuff. So I got my license, which is ironic because I don't drive. But while on that trip, he managed to get himself a hernia, which is not uncommon. Anyway, he was supposed to come home when he was in America, which was about 3-4 months into the trip, to have the hernia surgery, which is a standard procedure where they basically mesh it, and it's done by keyhole. Because a hernia, if some of you don't know, is a weakening in the lining of the intestines. You can get them in other places, but in his case it was at the intestines, and it was causing him like a lot of pain and discomfort. So fast forward to when he's supposed to come home, he does not end up getting home because they're short personnel, and he has to stay. So he is 6 months on a trip in agony for a hernia that he had just before he left, that was supposed to be seen to because it was getting really painful, and it just didn't happen. So he gets home and he gets booked in for surgery, and unfortunately his surgery didn't really go to plan. I don't want to get into anything to do with the actual surgery, but essentially it wasn't handled like it should have been. Fortunately, he got cut open, and as a result of the healing process, he got an infection that was not picked up and now has nerve entrapment and therefore nerve damage. It's something so routine that went so drastically wrong, and there is actually no way to fix what has happened. You need to be aware that these things can happen. In no way does it warrant sort of like pity, because he's a very strong person and he's done a lot to better himself given the cards that he's been dealt, and I'm really proud of him for that. And I probably have never said that out loud before, but hey Josh, if you're watching, I'm really proud of you. So basically he went from being an able-bodied individual to having a limp, to not being able to be up, standing or sitting for long periods of time. I think towards the beginning we were maybe being able to walk for 3 minutes before he had to sit down, and this gradually increased to 6 minutes, and it was just really hard. You can imagine what that does to your mindset, being perfectly fine one day and 3 months down the line not being able to function like you've been able to function your whole life. It got him a bit down. I think he saw it as sort of like a life sentence, that he was never going to be the person that he wanted to be because he couldn't do things the way he used to do things. He couldn't play sport anymore because he couldn't kick a soccer ball because he was in pain. He wouldn't be able to go places for long periods of time anymore, and he became really reclusive. And from my perspective, I think it was hard because I knew what he was capable of, and I knew this upsets me a little bit, and I knew in the long run, like, it would take him a while to come around and also see that he was more than capable. Like, he was more than being able to walk around and kick a soccer ball. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's a very intellectual person, he's very smart, and I knew that, you know, it would be a long time for him to get back to a point where he recognized that in himself as well. I've had a lot of people ask me why I didn't want to leave because he was effectively crippled, and for starters, I think that is so fucking wrong for people to assume that people are only good if they are able-bodied or if they don't have any sort of deficiency. For starters, I'm not perfect, and I don't think anyone is, so I don't think it's right to go around and pick people off because of things they can and can't do. I mean, God, sometimes I feel like I'm a burden on him because of all like the mind shit that I've got going on. So like, to not have an effectively working leg really never crossed my mind as something that was enough to leave someone over. What was a big deal was his mindset. He became really depressed, and I mean like really, I have never seen someone more depressed than I've seen him. And I was scared that he would do something stupid, despite him saying he wouldn't do something stupid. I think when you reach a point of despair that's pretty much that low, it's very hard to believe someone when they're telling you they won't do things when in the next you know, 24, 48 hours, they're crying to you saying that maybe I'm better off dead. A few years down the track, he did end up being eligible for a surgery. So the way nerve damage or nerve pain works is basically the area that's affected sends a signal to your brain, which then sends a pain signal back down your spine. These are where all of the nerves are located, and different nerve intervals according to where they are along the vertebrae effectively control these responses. So his was located in his lumbar spine, so his lower spine, and what they aimed to do was to implant 2 metal probes that he could adjust with sort of like an electrical current to sort of interrupt the pain signal. And initially it worked for a little while, but after a few weeks I was noticing that he was maxing out the signal. It was like at high volume all the time, and he wasn't really getting enough relief from it that he was initially, which again was another major blow to somebody who's already depressed. It wasn't working anymore, and what we found out later was that the probes that were implanted weren't stable in the position they were in or whatever, but he's got some gnarly scars on his spine. It was hard to have put so much faith in something that would have been so close to having a normalcy back and then have it fail. So he basically is on synthetic codeine derivative drugs at the moment, which again is something that worries me incredibly, because synthetic codeine is just about as potent as actual codeine, and it can't be great to be maxed out on those medications in terms of like your kidneys and your liver and stuff, and I worry about what that's doing. I try not to say anything around him about it because he either gets upset and defensive, which I completely understand. I mean, if it was me, I'd probably feel the same way, and I think to some extent it's never really gonna sink in all of the stuff he's missing out on. And it must be like a really big blow to realize that, you know, all of your friends are doing X, Y, and Z, and you can't even stay awake for more than a couple hours in a day. He really wants to work. He's really smart. He has a YouTube channel. He loves racing. I'm linking all of this down below because this is important to him. So at the moment, the prognosis that we're looking at isn't different. He's still on the medication route, which I think a lot of us are really upset about, to be honest. I know his mum and his grandma worry about him a lot as well. And there are 3 specialists in the world that deal with this problem, and so far, according to my research, there's no cure for it. However, there is a new trial being conducted on a similar premise to the last surgery that he had, but rather than implanting a device in the area that is affected, they implant higher up along the spinal cord where all the nerves are, so that it effectively stops the signal, the pain signal, before it can even get to the affected area. He doesn't want to be part of the trial, and we for a long time didn't understand why, and we've realized he's actually really worried about it. He's really scared that they have to cut open his spine again, and maybe they can't even do it because of the scar tissue left from the last surgery. He's worried to put all of his hope into something again that might not yield results, and I think a lot of it is he doesn't want to let himself down. I sure as hell hope that he never holds any guilt in terms of our relationship and like how I view this. I don't think this is a burden, and I don't think it should be treated like that. He is not a burden on me or society or his friends or whatever. Like, it's just an unfortunate hand that got dealt, and we're all dealing with it, and I don't ever want him to feel like less of a person. I started a project called the Brave Project, and I talked to people in situations like him, people with mental health issues, things that society stigmatizes, and I've actually linked his episode down below. He was really nervous to make it, and it was probably the first time I'd ever heard him talk through the entire story and how he actually felt about it. The project in itself has sort of put the brakes on for the moment, because thank you for listening to my story about Josh. I'm sorry I can't provide you with all of the information. I am definitely linking his channel down below. It's something he's very passionate about and he loves very much. If you have anything nice to say, pop it in the comments. I'll let him know. If you have any topics that you think I might be knowledgeable on that you would like me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful day and I will see you all next Wednesday.